Hello, welcome back to the Giant Papist, where we judge not by appearances, but by the sanity of one's doctrine. Today's gospel reflection and reading will be for the Wednesday of the second week of Lent. The gospel for that day is Matthew chapter 20, verses 17 to 28. This is Jesus making his way towards Jerusalem for his upcoming passion, death, and resurrection, but in the journey preserved in the synoptics, before he leaves Jericho. So he's in between Jericho and Jerusalem. All right, so let us get to the reading. And as Jesus was going up to Jerusalem, he took the 12 disciples aside, and on the way he said to them, Behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be delivered to the chief priests and scribes, and they will condemn him to death, and deliver him to the Gentiles to be mocked and scourged and crucified, and he will be raised on the third day. Then the mother of the sons of Zebedee came up to him with her sons, and kneeling before him, she asked him for something. And he said to her, What do you want? She said to him, Command that these two sons of mine may sit, one at your right hand and one on your left, in your kingdom. But Jesus answered, You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the chalice that I am to drink? They said to him, We are able. He said to them, You will drink my chalice, but to sit at my right hand and at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared by my Father. And when the 10 heard it, they were indignant at the two brothers. But Jesus called to them and said, You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great men exercise authority over them. It shall not be so among you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be your slave, even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as ransom for many. Thus endeth the lesson. So, first things first, the theme, one of the overarching themes for the Gospels in the season of Lent, whether we like it or not, the cross is not optional, and we cannot escape it. Within Matthew's Gospel account, this is the third explicit prophecy that Jesus gives of his passion, death, and resurrection to his disciples. So it makes you wonder why they were caught by surprise in the garden when they really shouldn't have been. But also keep in mind, we are reading this 2,000 years after the fact, so we should perhaps be a bit more charitable, but at the same time, we can fairly criticize them for not cluing in just yet, even though Jesus is quite open about what's going to happen. Right? And Matthew does say this. He states this to the 12, to the apostles. But then after that moment, continuing on the idea of servant leadership that Jesus will later teach the 12, we have the mother of James the Great and John the Apostle, Salome, the wife of Zebedee. coming up and wanting to ask Jesus a favor. You know, my two sons have been following you for the past 3 years. Is it too much to ask that you have them sit at your right hand and at your left hand when your kingdom comes, Lord? As a mother wanting what she thinks is best for her children, but Jesus clarifies, both to Salome and to James and John, you do not know what you are asking. And then he asks James and John a probing question. All right, you know, you do not know what you're asking if you want to be my second in command in the kingdom of heaven as your mother requested. I'll explain why. You do not know why you're asking in a moment, but first, I wish to test your devotion to me. Are you able to drink the chalice that I am to drink? For those who studied the Gospels, we know that when Jesus is mentioning the chalice, he's mentioning the chalice of his passion and death. You know, that upcoming event just moments before he explicitly prophesied for the third time. He's asking him directly because we know it wasn't just Peter that had problems accepting the prediction of the cross. You know, the other apostles had problems accepting it as well, so Jesus is going to test them. Do you accept the cross? Are you able to accept it? Are you able to be my disciple and take up your cross and follow after my own cross? James and John state that they are. They do not quite know what it entails. They don't know that when the initial moment of testing comes, they will flee the garden, but much like Peter, before he's given the prophecy of denying Jesus 3 times during the Last Supper, James and John show a willingness of, yes, we are willing to die for you, Lord, even though we don't yet know what that means, or we're not quite as ready as we thought we were at this time. And Jesus gives a prophecy, you will drink my chalice. James the Great will end up being martyred in Jerusalem sometime between 43 to 45 AD. John the Apostle, of common theological opinion that he was the only member of the 12 to not suffer martyrdom, if you discount Judas Iscariot, who committed suicide. But there are also traditions that if it wasn't for him being miraculously preserved, that John too was willing to face martyrdom. And in one of these stories, the famous legend of him surviving being boiled alive, like his older brother, he too was willing to die for Christ. So Jesus is prophesying these events will happen. When you are fully prepared by the grace I give you, you will drink the chalice of my death. But then he states, to clarify to James and John and their mother Salome, to sit at my right hand and at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared for by my Father. So, you know, in other words, no, I cannot make your sons my second in command in heaven, Salome. That is not within my authority. That is in the Father's authority, and he has already given those positions of honor to other people. You know, God has the authority in heaven. But then, of course, continuing on the ideas of servant leadership, the rest of the apostles aren't too happy with what they just overheard. They think James and John are trying to one up them. I mean, keep in mind, Peter was made by Jesus the prince of the apostles, the head of the 12. Like, whoa, whoa, James, John, what do you think you're doing? Are you trying to one up us? And Jesus decides to give them one of the lessons he often gives during his public ministry, the idea of what it really means to rule. You know that the rulers of the Gentile lord it over them, and that their great men exercise authority over them. It, it shall not be so among you. That is, not will not, shall not. That is more complete. That is more certain. That no matter what happens, this, the way the world rules, is not how you are going to rule. If you want to be great among your fellow disciples, among your fellow humans, you will be their servant. If I, your master, am a servant leader, then what makes you think that you will be anything but a servant leader? A disciple is not greater than his master. You know, you will not lord your position of authority over people. You will serve them, and you will use me as an example, because I am connecting the ideal form of servant leadership to the cross, to what I will suffer on behalf of you. And note, to give his life as ransom for many. Jesus did not just die for a select group of people, he dies for all people. So, servant leaderships, a servant leader must be willing to serve all people. You know, there is no limit to divine charity. And on that note, I've come to the end of this short reflection. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.